Welcome back to your Heat latest on FanArc. I'm Sam Shapiro. Well, if you haven't checked out Underdog Fantasy, use this QR code right up here. Scan it, download the app today to join in on all the action. It's definitely been a lot more exciting for me following the NBA this season, being able to make some of these picks that Underdog has to offer. Definitely not just exciting for your average fan or your super fan, but anybody in between. So if you download that QR code on your screen, join the app, you can use promo code BASKETBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, that's BASKETBALLFAN. You can get in on all the action on Underdog Fantasy. Thank you again to them for sponsoring today's video. We'll dive into the topics we have in today's episode. Miami taking a tough loss to start this 5-game road trip, and more news surrounding another new injury Tyler Hero is now dealing with. We're going to dive into that, but before we get into the action, don't forget to drop a like on this video, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We've got great daily content you don't want to miss, all right here, Monday through Friday. Well, Miami taking a tough loss to the Golden State Warriors on the road as they fell 135 to 112. Quite a catastrophic game, especially watching the end of this contest where Miami was pretty much out of it, I believe, down by 11 going into the fourth quarter, and then Golden State's bench pretty much just running away with this game. But to me, what was kind of insane was how much Miami struggled later in the game with Curry in foul trouble, Jimmy Butler leaving the game in the second half with what looked like a pretty gnarly knee injury. I'm hoping that he is okay and that hopefully the injury he kind of underwent wasn't season ending, at least from what I'm looking at right now. I don't see any clear-cut reports on ultimately what happened, but with those two guys out of the lineup and then Draymond Green also being sidelined with an ankle injury, I know in my opinion, I don't really think he's that much of a great player, or at least in comparison to what he was a few seasons ago. With those three key guys out of Golden State's lineup, this should have been a much easier game, I think, for Miami to win. However, definitely was not the case, unfortunately, for Miami. They did a good job containing Curry, who was in foul trouble most of the game, holding him to 19 points on 6 of 13 shooting from the field, which, I mean, is still a pretty good night for any NBA player, but considering you're going up against the best outside shooting player of all time, 19 points is not bad. Granted, he did have 5 threes, got it going from beyond the arc in the time that he was in the game, but I think this is a relatively better performance. I think that Miami could have held them to in comparison to, Curry maybe popping off, having an absolute clinic as we watched SGA score a plethora of points and the Thunder's loss against Miami over the course of this weekend. But ultimately, Jimmy Butler still scoring 17 points despite only playing 21 minutes, going down with a pretty gruesome knee injury. I think it was midway through the third quarter. So with those two, with Curry being in foul trouble and Butler dealing with the injury, definitely seemed like this was kind of a scenario for Miami to win this game on the road. But when you shoot 28% from 3 and 39% from the field, it definitely makes it harder, especially when at the end of the game you basically are playing like you've nearly given up. I'm not saying that that was the case for Miami, but it just seemed like they couldn't get their shots to fall. They let the Warriors go on a number of runs. Mind you, I believe the Warriors going on a 14-point run after Jimmy Butler left the game. So them definitely playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder and, wanting to fight for their teammate who hopefully is going to be able to return at least at some point in the regular season. But really what did Miami in this game was the bench battle between these two teams. Golden State outscoring Miami's bench 66 to 53, and I blame Brandon Pajemski for this. I really blame him for this, to be completely honest with you. 24 points, the leading scorer for the Warriors in this game, off the bench. Granted, did play some starter minutes, probably had to step up a little bit with Jimmy Butler, out of the mix. 24 points, 3 of 7 from 3, 9 of 19 from the field. So in terms of a field goal percentage standpoint, Curry did shoot better. But Podziemski providing that spark off the bench for this Golden State team definitely, I personally feel like, helped them gain a lot of momentum in times where could have shifted in Miami's favor. And to start this game out, it was pretty close. Only with Golden State only outscoring Miami in the first quarter by a point, 36-34, and then same scenario in the second quarter, 34 points to 32 points. So I think that spark that the Warriors had off the bench, when you compare it to Miami's, I mean, yes, you had 3 guys coming off the bench in double figures, and Jaquez Jr. with 10, Fontecchio with 13, and Ware with 15. I mean, it didn't matter because of how Miami starters didn't really step up in this game, especially in the absence of Tyler Hero. Bam Adebayo, 4 points on 1 of 13 shooting. Another really tough game we've seen from him over the course of what seems like now roughly his last 16 or 17, give or take. But 1 of 13 from the shooting, 1 of 13 from the field, is unacceptable for Bam Adebayo, especially in a night where you don't have Tyler Hero in the mix, now with all the midst of his new injury coming up, now looking like he is not going to be a part of what the team is hoping to do on the road in the next week or so. So, unfortunately, this is kind of a big blow, and because Miami's starters weren't able to really step up when the Warriors' bench was able to outscore Miami's in this fashion, definitely made it harder for Miami to kind of find their footing late in this game to maybe spark some sort of late game comeback and ultimately end up in the win column. But unfortunately, we'll just hopefully have to watch the tides turn tonight with Miami's next matchup against the Sacramento Kings. Before I get into the details surrounding Tyler Hero's injury and what I think this could potentially mean for Bam Adebayo, I just want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video over at Underdog Fantasy. Fast breaks, buzzer beaters, and block parties are back, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the action. Now, playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like points, rebounds, steals, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at tonight's matchup with the Phoenix Suns taking on the Philadelphia 76ers and selecting Tyrese Maxey for higher than 29.5 points and Devin Booker for higher than 23.5 points. Download the app today and use promo code BASKETBALLFAN to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. Again, that's promo code BASKETBALLFAN. Underdog, make picks, win money.
Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/play and get terms DFSTML for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-878 or text HOMI 467-369.
New reports are suggesting Tyler Hero is going to be sidelined with another injury, a costochordal, kind of botching the pronunciation, the costochordal issue with his ribs. That's at least what the injury report is kind of suggesting, but it's seeming that this rib contusion, or at least cardiovascular type of injury, is going to sideline Tyler Hero for the entirety of this 5-game road trip. Anthony Chang saying that with this injury, he's unlikely to join the team during its 5-game trip that began last night with the Warriors, and then a timeline for his return is undetermined right now. I mean, come on. Tyler Hero's played, 11 games this season so far? First with the off-season surgery with his foot/ankle, then a big toe contusion, and now a rib contusion. I mean, we've heard Pat Riley preach, the best ability is availability, and he's called Hero fragile in the past before, and unfortunately, this is just kind of following in the footsteps of pretty much that. And I'm hoping that this, again, is not a majorly serious injury, but the guy's only played 11 games this season, and you're coming up on more than 40 games the team has played this year. I mean, what is it going to take for Tyler Hero to catch a break? in terms of at least being able to stay healthy and contribute to this team. Because I think if you at least had him on the roster, in the beginning of the season, the success we had saw Miami reap in some of these early games, or at least through their first 21 games, he could have been a part of and could have been a focal contributing factor into why this team continues to lead the league in pace and why they're a high scoring team, on top of also defensively being really solid overall this year. I mean, it's just frustrating. I don't necessarily, obviously you're not going to blame injury on a certain player or a person based on how they conduct themselves. These guys are getting paid millions of dollars, and obviously you want to see Hero be a part of the success that this Miami team has had this season. But the regression, and again, not blaming Hero for Miami, at least slowing down a little bit, but every time it seems like he's at least able to ramp up and be part of Miami having a big win or being successful consistently, there's always an injury or something like this, I feel like, plaguing him in particular this season. And it's honestly just giving Miami another reason to not want to give him that extension. It's going to be a very interesting offseason, especially now with this third injury, when you include the offseason surgery and you include the toe tobacco in the mix. This being the third now over, the last 6 months, give or take, that's been impacting Hero's ability to get on the floor. Probably less, but the big question I have, at least surrounding Hero now having another injury that at least it's being suggested in the reports from Chang that could be the next 4 games following, what does this mean for Bam Adebayo in the grand scheme of things? Is he going to dominate on this road trip as we had saw in the 3 games prior to this contest last night against the Golden State Warriors? I don't know, because now I'm not certainly convinced, coming off a 1 of 13 abysmal scoring performance for Bam. But when you look at his last 3 games, he's been averaging 27 points, roughly 8.5 rebounds, and then 4 assists prior to this. Now, in the, I think, 7 games before that, this game against the Warriors looked a lot more reminiscent of that play we had seen in the matchups prior to these 3 games. But you also kind of made a more concrete shift, I feel like, to having Adebayo play at the 5 in these 3 games where he popped off, in comparison to having him maybe at the 4 spot. Maybe that needs to be a more consistent adjustment. Obviously, in a lot of scenarios on the channel here, I've talked about how having Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo in the starting lineup has been, I think, good for Miami in certain scenarios. But if Adebayo is going to play his best basketball at the 5, definitely raises some other questions. And with Hero out of the mix, I mean, it doesn't clearly necessarily going to mean every given night that he's going to score 25, 30 points a game. He's got to shoot the ball more efficiently, obviously. I'm just hoping that at least with Hero out, it gives Adebayo more of an opportunity to have the ball in his hands under the basket, because clearly we've seen in the 3 games prior to that, him be in that situation and him look a lot more comfortable offensively on the floor. Drop in the comments what you guys think Miami should do in terms of shaking up the lineup, assuming that Hero is going to be out with this rib contusion, and that hopefully it won't put a blunder on Miami hopefully winning some of these games. Again, they will be back in action tonight with another, obviously, it's part of a 5-game road trip, but Miami suiting up against the Sacramento Kings in the second game of a 5-game road trip. We'll have the recap for you in tomorrow's episode, but that's going to do it for today's episode of your Heat Latest on FanArc. Thanks again so much for joining us. Don't forget to drop a like on this video, and if you haven't already, click that subscribe button. We've got great daily content you don't want to miss, all right here, Monday through Friday. Hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I'm Sam Shapiro. Have a good one.